Globally, climate change and continued poverty are probably the two largest long-term challenges for human development. In a bid to find solutions to reduce these challenges, a regional civil society project promoting implementation of the Paris Agreement (PIPA) in East Africa, with a focus on pure low-emission development, is a 1.5-year project running from January 2017 to June 2018. This project is implemented in Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda in partnership with SustainableEnergy, SE of Denmark, International Network for Sustainable Energy, INFORSE, Tanzania Traditional Energy Development Organization, TaTEDO, Sustainable Environment Development Watch Kenya, SusWatch-Kenya, and Uganda Coalition for Sustainable Development, UCSD. The project seeks to contribute to strengthen the proper focus and climate change ambitions in the implementation of the Paris Agreement in East Africa. The effects of climate change are diverse and require diverse strategies and approaches.
A few things that we need to take note of from the Paris Agreement is this animal called climate change that we have been talking about at coffee tables, around fires for the last few years, because it has begun to manifest seriously as a problem because of the impacts that accompany it. Last week I was in my village. I come from the eastern part of the country, and I was amazed that for the first time since I was growing up, I was able to visibly see my neighbors, our neighbors' homes. We come from an area that is very much forested, but the drought has been very severe. And that is just one of the signs that we need to take into account as we look at climate change.
Parties held including the United Nations Framework of 1992, later ratified in 1994, the 1997 Kyoto Protocol, the Paris Agreement in 2015 that was ratified in Uganda in 2016, and the COP22 held in Marrakech, Morocco. No single global meeting has got the super solution to solving climate change vagaries.
If we think international climate policy has been working, this is the trajectory that we've registered over time. Because even with the UNFCCC and the Kyoto Protocol signed and ratified by countries, we've been, for example, between the 1990s to 2000, the emissions have been increasing by 1% per year. Imagine that that was at the time when we have the UNFCCC and the KP. But even from 2000 until 2010, for example, emissions have been growing at a rate of 3.4%. Now, if you add the Paris Agreement to this graph, the question you ask yourself, does climate change policy work? Because you see, it's been on an increasing trend. So which literally means that we have to do something different. That something different, I do not know. But it requires this kind of engagement and discussion to see the little that we can contribute so that we try to limit this kind of profile. Even if we did everything possible as Uganda, our contribution would be very minimal. That's why we need to work broadly together beyond Uganda as it is, beyond nation states, but also in country work with civil society, because each contribution counts in trying to help address the climate change issues.
While new agreements on climate change, Paris Agreement 2015, and Development, Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs 2015, give hope for improvements, in recent years, the climate change challenge has been increasing while poverty is only slowly reducing globally. If low-carbon strategies are well developed and are focused on proper solutions that reduce poverty, they will also enhance the development of the country and speed up poverty reduction. This project was launched in Uganda on the 14th of March 2017 with stakeholders recognizing the challenge of climate change and calling for more robust and encompassing approaches. The primary target group and participants in this project are the civil society organizations in Tanzania, Kenya, and Uganda, working on climate change, women's associations, youth associations, climate change networks, associations of farmers, and associations of businesses that are involved in low-emission development solutions. The primary target group will create awareness on the national framework climate change policy and legislation process, ongoing endeavors to improve the NDCs and further integration of climate change into development plans for 2018 to 2022. A well-functioning regional cooperation could contribute to increasing the capacities of these fields of the countries and give synergies. The secondary target group is national, regional, and international decision makers, as well as relevant private sector actors. The secondary targets are the duty bearers whose decisions determine the course of development and allocate funds. At the national levels, it is mainly ministries and government agencies involved. At the regional level, the main decision makers targeted are relevant East African community institutions and committees, development partners working on climate change and energy-related interventions, business entities, and the media.
I take this opportunity to applaud the Danish Embassy for the immense role, the big role that you have played in climate change, in setting us up to be able to address the climate change impacts. This project has already indicated will take 1.5 years, from January 2017 to June 2018. And while Uganda will undertake its national obligations through the civil society partnership, we also have Kenya and Tanzania doing their own part on the other side. The project is targeting the vulnerable, as already mentioned, women, the youth, men as well, in a big way. And we hope that that target will actually be part of the active players. You know, there is active participation and passive participation. We want to see active participation. We want to see people, local people being involved in the decisions that are made for them who actually suffer from the impacts. As government, we welcome this effort, and we call upon civil society champions in this to ensure that they actually deliver a physical output at the end. We want you to walk the talk in this project. We want you to move away from being just watchdogs to being effective implementers. As the Ministry of Water and Environment, we pledge our technical and supervisory support, and we commit the Climate Change Department, which is the overall national coordinator of climate change efforts, to actually assist you on an operational day-to-day basis, to coordinate and to give guidance as they are mandated to. And I now take the singular honor and privilege to launch this project. I thank you for listening.
It is seeking to roll out the very big agreement that the countries, including Uganda, have signed up in terms of seeing that we take some action on climate change that is manifested at current in the form of droughts, water scarcity, in terms of food insecurity, and so on, much as they are voluntary to secure that our people are cushioned against the impacts of climate change across Uganda, across Kenya, across Tanzania. We are talking about 81.7 million people who are, poor and affected by climate.
For stakeholders in Uganda, the launch of the PIPA project has stirred up issues regarding energy, climate change financing, and how civil society ought to respond to climate change issues.
Hydropower has got impacts, and as I said, the best thing is to involve the private sector to get to know this early. That if you do this without, for example, carrying very good environmental impact assessments, you are going to have problems. I think NAPE had problems with the Bujagali developing Bujagali specifically because of that, because I think some of the impacts were not carefully assessed and things like that. So that you need to educate these people early that this happens. Because then you see the interest of the private sector is just getting the power and then generating and selling. But you need to show to them that actually that has got issues. What we are doing with the companies is that we show to them that actually there is a benefit. Again, if they involve the communities or they pay back, especially, for example, the hydropower generating companies. In some of the areas, for example, for Kasese, you can see the impacts, the floods. And also there is a lot of silting, so you are not able to produce the power as you want. So the best thing is also get interested, work with the communities to ensure that this is done. But for like some of the corporate organizations here around in Kampala, you see, they also, if you have a very good course, they will buy into it. You see, because they have got that social responsibility. So if you're telling them this is what you intend to do, and you're going to do it in collaboration within them, and they're going to see the benefits, they will buy into that initiative. So it lies with us to ensure that they are able to see this. Observed that the need for policy and a government role. I think that's still very important, and that's where actually as civil society we still have a role to play. How do we ensure there is the right environment for these, encouraging alternatives, as you say. Because you see, the private sector will not come if the policy is discouraging them. So we need to advocate for the right kind of environment. With I think with the help of our sisters, like the parliamentary forum, because they're the legislators, we need to work in that kind of partnership. If we can get to you the right information, you see, you are able to talk to your colleagues as well. That this is the situation and this is where we need help. So this is part of civil society role, generating right information which can be used for advocacy. Because if you don't generate again the right information, people will not believe you. You see, you should have tangible information which can be used for advocacy.
Levels of consultation, you find that some projects are submitted, but then even where they are going to implement them, there is no problem to be addressed by that project. You get it? And so it means there was no consultation, both at national level, but even at that level of where the project is going to be implemented. This is one of the challenges we've had. The GCF has a robust way of detecting these things, and therefore you should avoid it.
Speaking about the current and future engagement, we have the Adaptation, Finance and Accountability Initiative, the FI project, and this one is meant to track the resources and their relevance and their impact within the communities, right from the highest level, the GCF, the global level, to how it is utilized, how these resources are utilized at national level through the budget, but also looking at how these resources are trickled down to the most vulnerable. Remember, in the morning we were talking about reaching the farthest. The SDGs are talking about not leaving anybody behind. So the spirit behind that project is to have the poor, as the PIPA project is doing, to have the pro-poor engagement, pro-poor and the vulnerable communities engaged in processes that are meant to ensure resilience. We also partner with local governments and private sector. For private sector, it is a very new area that we are currently engaging in, and of course, private sector has to get on board, because partly they contribute to the existence of the problem, but also they have resources that can help us to adapt in one way or the other.
Working on climate change calls for networking and collaboration. The PIPA project is supported by the Danish. At the launch of the project in Kampala, the first secretary in the Danish embassy noted that the target groups should be partners. He acknowledged that the PIPA project is well aligned to the Danish strategy for Uganda 2018 to 2022.
Recently, a new Danish strategy for development, cooperation and humanitarian action was published. This project on promoting implementation of the Paris Agreement in East Africa is very well in line with this strategy for at least 3 reasons. First of all, climate change is a key focus area of the new strategy, which recognizes the importance of the Paris Agreement and not least the implementation of it. Climate is identified as a global public good, and the Sustainable Development Goal number 13 on climate action is therefore prioritized as a key issue for Denmark. The strategy says that Denmark will counter deteriorating living conditions as a consequence of climate changes and degradation of the environment by building increased resilience. Secondly, this project is primarily by and for civil society organizations. And that is also very well in line with the strategy that says that Denmark acknowledges the value of a strong and diverse civil society and will support its central role in promoting the SDGs.
This regional project was launched at Ngong Hotel in Nairobi in January 2017. It was attended by the project partners INFORSE, SustainableEnergy, SusWatch-Kenya, TaTEDO, and UCSD.